FoxSportsScout.com. I'm Chris M with Boiler Sports Report alongside Badger Nation's Ben Wergel. We're talking about the 41-10 drubbing that Wisconsin handed Purdue here at Camp Randall Stadium. Start to finish, really, Wisconsin kind of had it in control. Purdue had a couple chances there in the second quarter and cut it close, 4-point game, and then Wisconsin did Wisconsin things. You saw all the running backs. You saw James White. You saw Melvin Gordon. You saw Corey Clement. Everybody's in control. What did you see from Wisconsin that stood out of the many things, I guess?
I saw an angry team. I think a lot of people were expecting that after what happened last week at Arizona State, and I think this team came out with a chip on its shoulder. Like you mentioned, that Purdue got the interception, got inside the 11-yard line, but was held to a field goal. And Chris Borland said that was kind of one of the defining moments for the team in that game, to have that kind of stop, to force Purdue just to have a field goal and keep it 14-10. And then, like you said, the running game took over. And Wisconsin loves playing these pro-style offenses. We could see it today with the amount of pressure. 8 tackles for loss today, a lot of pressure. Rob Henry never looked comfortable in the pocket. And I thought Wisconsin's running game obviously really played well. Melvin Gordon, again, 4 games this year. Gordon's a rush over for 140 yards in all the games, getting a lot of buzz as maybe a Heisman kind of guy. I think they have to win next week in order for that to really gain a lot of traction. But Wisconsin's running game last year really dominated Purdue, 460 some yards and 3 touchdowns, and then today, almost 3 backs over 100 yards again and 5 rushing touchdowns. Just a dominant performance by Wisconsin.
I know, looking into the game during the week and studying up a little bit, you knew. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You're going to get a good dose of James White. You're going to get a good dose of Melvin Gordon, and Purdue sure saw that. I mean, they topped their averages for the season, and those are impressive averages. They ran all over the place. Purdue's strategy going in is simple, and you just got to execute. You can't miss tackles, and they didn't do either of those, and Wisconsin just kind of had its way on defense. On offense, Purdue just kind of had to get some mojo going, get a little bit of offense, get down the field. You had to get a balance of a rushing attack and a passing attack, and they got neither, frankly. They couldn't get an offense going. Akeem Hunt really struggled to move the football. Rob Henry, 50% of his passes completed. You got to do more than that. Longest pass was 19 yards. I mean, you got to do more, period. It's a great Wisconsin defense, but Purdue sure had its issues as well. You mentioned, looking back to last week in a painful loss in Arizona State, a game that, let's be honest, Wisconsin should have won. How much during the week do you hear about that hunger, about that drive, and how much did that kind of translate into this game and transition into a big old win?
Well, I mean, Gary Anderson said at his press conference that this team has a chip on his shoulder and he hopes it carries through the rest of the year. I mean, why wouldn't it? I mean, like you mentioned, Wisconsin kind of got jobbed out of an opportunity to go for the win at Arizona State because of human error, because of an officiating error. We all know what happened. We don't need to relive it, but this team is going to relive it, and this team is going to think about that, especially if they keep winning. And that's going to be probably the motivational thing for Wisconsin this year, is that they had an opportunity to win a big game on the road. It didn't happen. Now let's prove to people that we're still a good football team and that we're going to play well. And I think, we saw this team take some big steps forward today. Big Ten play, I think they came at the right time for Wisconsin, could turn the page. And like you said, Chris, I mean, they really clicked on all cylinders except for a couple lapses here and there. Dominant defensively, and then offensively, their running game just carried the load.
Obviously, just kind of luck of the draw of the schedule. How important was it, and how great was it for Wisconsin to have a reeling Purdue team come in, a team that's really been struggling all year long, and kind of be that sacrificial lamb, so to speak?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't think it would have mattered who they would have played today. I think that Wisconsin was going to be an angry team, a motivated team, and I think we saw that today. I think it probably helped that it was a Purdue, a team that Wisconsin has now beat 7 straight times, and rather handily the last 7 times. So it was just one of those things where it was just kind of the perfect storm for Purdue. A Purdue team that obviously played very well last week, except for the fourth quarter, kind of gave it up a little bit, and is still going through a transition phase a little bit under Darrell Hazel. I mean, you can see this team, is physical and they play tough, but Wisconsin just today, I thought, Purdue has probably the best 2 combo defensive tackles in the country, and I think Bruce Gaston is a really phenomenal player. You can see in his numbers this year how he's elevated his game. He was just a non-factor today. I mean, Wisconsin's offensive line just shut him down, and some of the holes that the Badgers had to run through today were just, I mean, what more can you do? I mean, I probably could have ran for 20, 30 yards to him. Maybe not. But, it was just one of those games where everything kind of came together for Wisconsin, and it's a good thing to see, especially since they're going to Ohio State next week.
From a Purdue perspective, it's a bit alarming when you hear first-year head coach after his 4th game talking about soul-searching, talking about reevaluating everybody, talking about finding the guys who can step up and make plays, and just a bunch of bad things that you heard in that press conference. Daryl Hazel, usually even keeled, he was frustrated. He's not a guy who's going to be screaming and flipping a chair, but he had no answers. He never saw this coming from this team. Obviously, Wisconsin's a great football team, but Purdue's so far from where it wants to be right now, and Hazel's starting to realize that all the glass half full kind of stuff, suddenly that glass is half empty now, and they got a lot of work to do. Looking ahead, they got Northern Illinois next weekend in Ross-Ade Stadium. That's not your average MAC team. That's a tough team with Jordan Lynch coming in. Then after that, Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan State. Good luck, Boilermakers. It's not going to be easy. Looking ahead, what do you see for the Badgers in Columbus next weekend?
Well, they got to continue the running game. I mean, that's kind of their bread and butter. We saw today the passing game is it's not quite where it should be at this point in the year. Stavi's kind of struggling with some of the downfield passing games, trouble with the slants. Miscommunication led to the interception, and against good teams like Ohio State, you can't do that. You can't turn the ball over. You can't make those kind of mistakes. And the last 2 times Wisconsin's played Ohio State, the running game has really been kind of halted. Melvin Gordon mentioned last year he had 1 carry for -1 yard against the Buckeyes. That has to obviously change next week, and it'll be a tough environment. 7 p.m. game, it's Central Time. It'll be a rowdy environment. It's a game that's going to decide a lot for Wisconsin, because that's going to be Wisconsin's toughest game the remaining part of the year. And you need to win that game. You need to prove, if you want to be a championship team, you got to win on the road. You got to win big games, and then next week's that perfect opportunity for that.
The story here from Camp Randall Stadium, a 41-10 final score. Wisconsin well over 500 yards. Purdue just shy of 200 yards. It was utter domination from start to finish. Ben Wergel, Badger Nation. I'm Chris Emma with Buller Sports Report, Fox Sports, and Scout.com.